Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of The Lap Down. I am your host, Greg Farmer, and with me tonight is JP and Ryan. How are we doing, boys?
Good.
Doing fantastic.
That's good. It's a beautiful Monday night. I just want to take a moment and say happy Memorial Day to all of those here in the United States of America. Um, Never forget what Memorial Day is all about. Those who made the ultimate sacrifice, so that way we can enjoy our freedoms that we have today. So thank you very much, and again, happy Memorial Day to those who celebrate. Before we get started, big thank you to Will and the Alkali Project for the intro and outro music on the podcast. Please be sure to check out their album, The Blood World, wherever you get your music. We are going to jump right into everything. It was a massive weekend of racing. We are going to start with Indycar, the Indy 500, and I'm going to let Ryan take point on this. There was some drama at Team Penske last week. Ryan, take it away.
All right. Well, drama, I don't think even starts to comprehend it because really this all started last year at the season opener when Penske was busted for having illegal use of the push to pass system on the Indy cars. They were ultimately assessed a relatively small penalty for the amount of advantage that being able to utilize the push to pass in that situation is. So essentially, the push to pass button isn't supposed to be active until you've completed lap one off of the restart. But the Penske cars had it active for right off the bat, so they could use that push to pass on that opening lap while everybody was bunched together. Massive performance advantage, and they were assessed a penalty for it. And then coming into this weekend, yet another penalty where they were modifying and messing with the rear attenuator, which, as I'm assuming most people on this podcast probably hadn't heard the word attenuator really much before this. It is a
Absolutely.
it is a safety feature on the back half of the car that's meant to help with the crushability of the car under rear end impacts. Um, so that when you back the car into the wall, it crushes in the right direction and not into the driver component of the race car. And modifying with those parts, while every IndyCar team that I saw make a statement on it says that there really is no competitive advantage to be gained by modifying it. Modifying it is still outside the rule book, and the Team Penske was moved from what was supposed to be 11th and 12th for Will Power and Joseph Newgarden. They were moved to 32nd and 33rd on the grid in qualifying because they didn't catch it until after they already qualified for the Fast 12. Which again makes you wonder how many times in the past they've had these kinds of slips in the inspection line, and what happened recently to make them crack way down on inspection, because after the race we had even more inspection stuff. Finally, something not involving Team Penske, because when Team Penske's involved with it, because Roger Penske owns the series, there's always going to be about 10 times more scrutiny when the guy who owns the entire series and his team ends up getting caught for any sort of cheating.
Yep.
But Greg, I believe you had the report on the news that broke earlier this morning.
Yes. But to follow up on yours, some of the consequences that came from this was the firing of some major people at Team Penske. One included being Tim Cindric, who is Austin Cindric's father, who races in the Cup Series, as we all know.
Yeah.
Obviously that raised a lot of questions about well, what does this mean for Austin Cindric in the future at Team Penske and stuff like that. In my personal opinion, I don't think it's going to affect him at all. This was a completely separate incident. But yes, breaking news this morning from our good friend Bob Pockris. Three disqualifications from the Indianapolis 500. Marcus Ericsson, who finished second. Callum Ilott, I can't remember where he finished. And Kyle Kirkwood, who finished sixth, were all
They
disqualified.
all finished inside the top 12. I know that much. I think they all finished top 10 actually.
Okay. They were all disqualified for technical violations. Can't remember exactly what they were disqualified for. It was posted. Let me try to look that up real quick. Just got to
Yeah,
scroll
just a
back a
quick note,
little bit.
Chase. Just a quick note back on the Austin Cindric of it all, which I'm sure we'll talk more about this in the coming weeks and years. But I assume that because the reason why a lot of people were asking about Cindric's future is because a lot of people have the feeling that the reason he got that Penske car in the first place was because of his dad. But where he's already won a race this year, he won a race last year, it's starting to seem like he's winning enough to where he could probably justify keeping him in that car.
Yeah. All right. So the penalty for Callum Ilott was a left front wing end plate not meeting minimum height, and this was statement from the Prima team
Yeah,
that
Prema.
says Prema. Sorry.
Yeah,
Um,
no worries.
Following the Indy 500, the number 90 Prema car, driven home in 12th by Callum Ilott, was found in breach of the technical regulations due to a front wing end plate not meeting the minimum height. As a consequence, the team was disqualified from the race and received accessory sanctions. While the same wing was completely original, successfully passed tech multiple times throughout the month, and the issue didn't lead to any performance gain, the car ended up being non-compliant within the rules at the end of the race. So the team accepts full responsibility. The team is currently investigating the root of the problem, which can involve incidents and fitment or production issues. We look forward to implementing the needed procedures to ensure improved control and avoid these kinds of issues in the future. So, with that being said, Premo will not appeal. However, the Kyle Kirkwood team and the Marcus Ericsson team will appeal the penalties.
Both of those are Andretti teams.
Yeah, both Andretti teams. I did not see anything as far as what they got disqualified for, but starting with you, Ryan. Obviously we kind of moved away from the Team Penske drama, and now we have disqualifications at the end. How do we feel about that?
I mean, again, I think my biggest question is the same one that I have with almost any failures to in post race tech, and how are these things not caught in pre race tech is
Okay,
kind of question number one because
before you
as
can,
the
but
premise statement said, they went through tech repeated multiple times throughout the month.
yeah. So before you continue, I actually have the details on the Ericsson and Kirkwood penalties. There was an article posted. It says the Ericsson and Kirkwood penalties were the result of modifications to the Dallara supplied energy management system covers and the mounting points from the covers to the A arms using unapproved spacers and parts.
All right.
So, with that being said, please continue.
Yeah. So, I mean, and then it kind of also naturally flows into my other main question about this is the fact that aside the Penske push the pass thing from last year notwithstanding, these are really the first time I remember hearing about.
Get your bed turned down.
Yeah, this is the first time I remember hearing anything about a penalty of any real kind in IndyCar in years. It feels like. I mean, I don't remember the last time they actually Sakar to the rear of the grid for the 500 or disqualified people after the 500. Because, like with NASCAR, I mean, we hear small disqualifications or small rules violations about every other week or so, to the point where it's like, okay, it's not a massive surprise when we see like Chris Buescher getting a 60-point penalty. I mean, to an extent, it was a surprise, but it's also we see teams pushing the issue in inspection. So did teams just all of a sudden decide that this year's Indy 500 was going to be the time to push the limits, or have teams been breaking the rules the entire time and just nobody noticed?
Yeah. I've been trying to follow. I follow IndyCar here and there. Like in years past, I mainly watched the Indy 500, but I've been trying to follow it more this year. And I believe this is the first time I've ever seen um, two cars get a grid place penalty and then a disqualification, much less three post race. Like, I don't think I've ever heard that in IndyCar.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, is the series checking for something new now, or is this something that they had been checking the whole time, and this is just the first time someone's broken the rule?
Yeah, I could see that.
Because I would be skeptical to think that this is the first time any of them have ever broken the rule, and all of a sudden two teams get caught with it.
Yep.
So it definitely seems like IndyCar may have stepped up their inspection game following the Team Penske thing. But
Yep.
yeah, it just seems weird that it's gone from almost none to seemingly hitting a lot of different people. I mean, it's not even. I mean, Andretti and Penske. I mean, that covers your Honda and your Chevy side of things. So it's not even like it's one engine manufacturer pushing the bill.
Yep. What about you, JP? What are your thoughts?
Stop. And you guys haven't touched on Kyle Larson's attempt at the double.
That's because we haven't really started recapping the races yet, JP. We were only talking about the disqualifications.
So
we will definitely get to Kyle Larson.
Yep.
But no. I'd said it time and time again on this, so I feel like the penalty fits the crime. I mean, if you're going to cheat, you need to get caught.
Yep.
Yeah, just again, it raises the question of okay. Yeah, after things like this, I mean, I said the same thing about the Penske thing. Is that they weren't able to investigate, but McLaughlin didn't suffer any setbacks due to the penalties because his car was destroyed in practice earlier that morning before the Fast 12 qualification, so they couldn't really inspect his car to see if they could find it. So definitely feels weird about that. I mean, obviously he quote unquote got what was coming to him, for lack of a better term. Yeah,
Yep.
when we get to the race recap. But
Yeah, we will.
in a similar vein, the 98 of Marco Andretti, I'm curious if his car was out of spec because that's another Andretti car, but they can't inspect it because early crash destroyed that thing.
Yep. And to counter what you said, JP, about if you're going to cheat, you need to get caught. Every team and every form of motorsport cheats in some way. They just haven't been caught yet.
Yeah, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Is the way of it has been the accepted form of this sport for years.
Yep.
Now, the only way to really to go against that is to make the punishment so severe that they stop trying to cheat.
But sticking with the Indy 500, the numbers got released today. They drew massive viewership for the Indy 500. 7.05 million people tuned in to watch the Indy 500, which is the biggest viewership since 2008. and it was also a complete and total sellout. 350,000 plus fans showed up for the Indy 500 on Sunday, which is absolutely incredible. Um, so, very quickly, Ryan, would you say that so far IndyCar on Fox is a success? I know we touched on it earlier this year.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is one, Fox definitely seems to care more about this than they did for the NASCAR portion of the season. And obviously, the Indy 500 being their biggest race, yeah, is going to get a lot of the attention. But I'm curious to see if they can turn a good ratings number at the 500 into any amount of ratings the following weeks, because that seems to always be the kind of sticking point, is that they can get great ratings at the 500 and then barely break 200,000 views on the race afterwards, whether it be Texas, Detroit, or wherever. It's Detroit this year, but in years past it's been Texas, and they just have never really been able to capitalize on bringing viewers from when they jump up to multiple millions of people for the 500.
What about you, JP?
Yeah, the 500 is a very special race. Uh, you know, Lawson grew in a lot of people for them racing in 500, but Kim Fox carry the IndyCar series the rest of the year. That's yet to be seen. I think they can, but time will tell.
I mean, I think it's hard to credit the bump in viewership to the Larson double attempt, because we had the Larson double attempt last year and we didn't break this kind of barrier with the numbers. So, I mean, it's not like it was the first time Kyle Larson was attempting it. Now, I do think that the weather delay and everybody checking to see if Larson was going to be able to stay definitely helped to some degree.
Yep. And
But I
so
also think everybody checking to see what was going to happen after the Penske disqualification was going to be the big jump.
yeah, and in comparison, last year they only got. I mean, I know I say they only got, but it's still a big number. They got like 5 million viewers last year. But
Yeah, down
granted,
about 2 million from this
yeah,
year.
yes, but granted, they had what, a 4 hour rain delay last year too.
I don't think it was a 4 hour. I think it was like 2.5, 3.
Yeah, 2.5, 3 hour rain delay. That
Yeah.
we talked about it last year. Kind of ruined the whole double attempt. But yeah, like JP said, time will tell, and Brian too, to see if they can kind of carry that momentum. But we're gonna shift into our recap segment. Um, as we've been talking, the IndyCar Indy 500 started off just chaotic. They had a 35 minute weather delay right after pre-race ceremonies for some drizzle. And it was really, people were really, really like getting worried for Kyle Larson to see if he was going to even be able to start the race, because he only had a 45 minute to an hour buffer of time to be
To
able
get the race started.
to get the race started and finished, and then get his way to Charlotte. And then under the pace laps, Scott McLaughlin was warming up his tires and wrecked his car before they even took the green flag. I
Yep.
was I was in the kitchen washing some dishes, and I turn around and I just see this demolished car in the infield grass, and I looked at my wife. I'm like, did they take the green flag? And she was like, I don't think so. And they were talking on the broadcast like, no, he wrecked under the pace laps. And you got to be gutted for Scotty Mack on that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's one of
Um,
those things when you're warming up the tires, you got to be careful.
yep.
Actually,
And
kind of
then
reminds me of NASCAR incident at Pocono where I remember Boyer was warming up his tires and nearly swerved right into the car getting the free pass.
yeah, I remember that.
I think that was like
And
2018 or something, but yeah, I just remember that as like, yep. Anytime you're swerving those tires, you always got to be careful of your surroundings.
yep.
And obviously, this
And
time it was track conditions.
yep. And then on a restart on lap 92, Kyle Larson was trying to make a bold pass and ended up running up behind another car. Had to check up, downshifted, and it kicked his back end out of whack, and he spun, taking multiple cars with him. He backed into the wall and ended up DNFing from the Indy 500. So, uh, as we stated earlier, it was raining at the start of the race. He was pressed for time. He was never going to finish the 500 in the first place. He had about a 13-minute buffer at that point, and he stated in his post race interview that he was never going to finish the 500. He was going to have to get out of the car in order to make it to Charlotte in time. But at the end of the race, Marcus Ericsson was leading, and then with about 8 or 9 laps to go, Alex Palou passed him and was able to hold him off to win the Indy 500 for the first time in his career. He became the
First
first.
oval win of his career at all.
Yep, first oval win. He became the first Spaniard to win the Indy 500, and that gives him his 5th win in the first 6 races of the IndyCar season. Ryan, overall, how do we feel about how the Indy 500 played out?
I mean, I felt like it was really entertaining down the stretch, especially. I mean, I know that some people were online were really upset with the 2 lap cars that were having an absolute shootout for like the last 2 spots on the lead lap, especially because the 2 teammates of Ray Hall. Yeah, yeah, it was Louis Foster and Devlin DeFrancesco that were just completing pass after pass on each other and causing a ton of dirty air for the leaders trying to get around them. But yeah, ultimately watching them trying to figure out how to time their passes, I think made that a very exciting finish to the 500. And honestly, once they got the 500 actually going after after the McLaughlin crash, after the Marco crash, it really was a pretty solid race. I mean, it certainly was. Yeah, it might not have lived up to say 2019 Indy 500 standards, but it's probably one of the better 500s I've seen in recent years.
Yep.
I'd give it a solid 7 out of 10.
Yep, most definitely. What about you, JP?
Yeah, for someone that doesn't usually watch Indycar and was keeping tabs on what Kyle Larson was able to do before he left, I thought it was a pretty good race. I give it a 8.
All right. I will give it an 8.5 out of 10. Um, Honestly, I think that the rain delay at the beginning of the race was um, kind of BS because it wasn't like raining like all that hard. They could have fired up the cars and had them running pace laps to help dry the track, and I don't think Larson would have been so pressed for time at that point.
Yeah,
Um,
the problem there is one, you're losing green flag laps to a race, which again, I think this is one thing that I think racing series have got to try and do, which is maximize number of green flag laps that you can, if you can get, like for example with NASCAR and their quickie yellows, the more laps you can give the fans of green flag action, the better. As long as you can do it safely, which when you have cars going 230 miles an hour into a corner, into a 90-degree corner, any amount of moisture, as we saw with McLaughlin, can be really bad. I mean, you couldn't drop the green in that condition, and McLaughlin proved that even running it under yellow was going to be treacherous because they try to build up the heat in their tires. More cars go spinning.
Yep. Yeah, but I mean,
And
over.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You're good.
But yeah, the big thing for me that I feel like really hurt this 500 for me was I was really looking forward to seeing the seeing if the fastest back row in IndyCar history would be able to make their way through. And Joseph Newgarden all day long was able to steadily move towards the front, and then all of a sudden something that nobody was actually able to see with a fuel pump issue just took him completely out of contention.
Yeah. 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 And we'll
So I
get
mean that was kind of the big thing. If he could have stayed in it all day, been right in the top 5 in the closing laps, I think it would have been even cooler.
Yep. And we'll get to that segment later. But once again, I cannot make picks to save my life. I was down all weekend with picks.
Uh,
But switching over to the NASCAR side on Saturday, Xfinity Series, William Byron wins after receiving a speeding penalty earlier in the race. He came from the back to the front during what we like to call Crash Fest USA during the third stage. I didn't really see much of the Xfinity Series race. I kind of listened to it on the radio. But Ryan, give us your thoughts about Xfinity on Saturday.
I felt like the Xfinity race was pretty good. The big ones I was watching for was watching Connor's Village, as we knew he would be making his Oval Cup debut, and this was his return to the seat after his back injury. Glad to see he completed the race without both races without injury, but it was a great dress rehearsal with just how many Cup drivers were in the field. There was Byron, there was Chastain in the Xfinity. Wasn't Chastain in the Xfinity race, or was he in the trucks?
I think he
He
ran
was
trucks.
good.
Okay, but yeah, there were a couple of different drivers running the double
I
duty
know,
there.
I know Austin Dillon was in there.
Yeah, Dylan was driving the Xfinity race as well, so there was a number of Cup drivers in there along with Connor's. So it was essentially a 50% race for the NASCAR for Charlotte 600. They got to run 300 miles of racing to prep him. And it was about as good as you could imagine for Connor's Village to learn. Yeah, learning ovals, learning Charlotte specifically for what he would do to the following night. But
Yep.
ultimately, I always prefer to see an Xfinity guy at least be able to hang close to Byron, and it didn't feel like anyone was in Byron's league all weekend.
No. And before we get to JP, also don't want to forget to mention for the second time this season, Sammy Smith was disqualified post race. Or what was it? Uh, bu- 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 Minimum weight requirements, I believe.
Yep.
And so I'm just going to go ahead and lock it in that the next Xfinity Series race, Sammy Smith wins. Because if consistency shows any driver that gets a penalty or disqualified, they go on and win the week after. And it
Well,
just
but he
nullifies
was
that penalty
disqualified
out.
earlier this year and hasn't won yet.
I thought he
Can you?
had.
Oh, wait, did he?
Yeah, he won a race because Jesse Love got disqualified.
Oh yeah, he didn't. He wasn't the winner on track. He was the winner via the inspection line afterwards. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. But JP, what were your thoughts on Xfinity?
I thought it was pretty good. Will and Byron had a fast race car on Saturday, but as far as Will and Myron getting a penalty and rebounding from it. That just proves to me anyway how good Byron is. He is definitely a Sunday driver for life.
Yeah,
All right.
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of the thing. Anytime I mean, this is the reason why people got annoyed with Kyle Busch in the Xfinity Series is that the Cup drivers are on that next level. I always have supported the idea because I feel like one, especially now that they're not running for Xfinity Series points alongside the running for the Xfinity Championship alongside the Cup one. Yeah, it feels a lot more fair for the Xfinity drivers that they only have to face each Cup driver like upwards of 5 times a season. And it gives them a chance to measure up to see, like, oh wow, there really isn't an Xfinity Series driver that can level up to, say, Kyle Larson's level in the Cup Series. Because like that's the thing when you only have the Xfinity Series drivers to compare up against, guys like Austin Hill or even Justin Allgaier to an extent look near elite or like, oh hey, this guy should be Cup ready. Then you see a Cup driver come down, smoke him, and be like, oh, he only looked that way because he had lesser competition from only having to race the other Xfinity Series guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Because like when you look at guys like Byron, like Bell, when they were coming through the league, through the ranks, they were able to regularly compete with and at times beat the Cup regulars that would come down into the Xfinity and Truck Series. So we knew they were Cup ready. I'm really starting to wonder if guys like Love or Hill are actually ever going to be Cup ready because every time a Cup driver comes down there, it feels like they're getting their tails beat.
Honestly, if they're Cup ready, they should switch teams because if they go to RCR, they're going to be bad.
Well, yeah, but again, I mean, at the RCR Xfinity team, that's one of the best Xfinity teams you can be on, and they're getting their tails whooped by Cup Series drivers every time they come down there. That I question if they're even Cup talent in the first place.
Yeah, that's true. Um,
And I mean, and then that comes to the other question of are there any seats available? Which, after what we saw this week, I would question if there are going to be very many, if any, seats available.
yeah, I don't think so.
Because almost every team, it feels like, has their lineup for the next 2 to 3 years pretty well solidified outside of like one or two.
Yep. But transitioning to Sunday for the Coca-Cola 600, Chase Briscoe started on the pole. Kyle Larson started second. Um, Larson took the lead and it looked like he was going to start running away with it, and then just out of nowhere spun while leading coming off of turn four. Had a little bit of damage, went a lap down, and then got collected later on in a wreck and ended up
Yeah, the Blaney
DNFing.
Suarez crash.
Yep, he ended up DNFing. So Larson did complete the double DNFs, if you will.
Yep.
But after
He
that,
did go
well,
double or nothing.
he did. He did.
That's a very good scat.
Um,
No, it is not.
William Byron dominated the Coke 600, leading 283 out of the 400 laps ran, but got passed with 8 laps to go by Ross Chastain, who was clearly the fastest car on track at that time. Not to mention that Ross started dead last on the field in a backup car after crashing and qualifying on Saturday and ended up losing the race. And Chastain became the first driver since 1971 to start 40th or worse and go on to win the race. But What was your Ryan? What was your thoughts on the Coke 600?
There was a lot of William Byron and a lot of Denny Hamlin, but I think that honestly, Charlotte definitely makes a very strong case. And of course, I saw it on Twitter this morning of people saying that, oh yeah, Charlotte should bring the 500-mile oval race back in the playoffs. And while I like the idea of adding another race at Charlotte, I'm not sure I want to lose the Roval. So I think the Charlotte Roval is one of the better road courses we have. So to lose the Roval for a extra Charlotte Oval race, as much as I love the Charlotte Oval, I would be a little cautionary to lose the Roval when it's one of, I think, our top two road courses in the series. I'd probably put it second
Yeah,
behind Watkins Glen. So
yeah. You guys know
if
my
you
standpoint
can
on the Roval.
yeah, if you can find room to fit all three, I would absolutely accept a 500-mile Charlotte Oval race. But I just don't know if you'll find the room on the schedule for three Charlotte dates.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I would like
Uh,
to see. Now, here's where you could find a spot for a third Charlotte date. Give Charlotte the All Star race back.
yes.
Because, say, especially on a short run restart, I think these cars have proven that they can make a short run at Charlotte an absolute cinema of a race. Well, yeah, clearly the short track package at North Wilkesboro, while maybe great if you run enough laps. Enough laps is kind of the problem with I think the All Star race, because we also didn't do an episode last week recapping the All Star weekend. But yeah, I feel like the problem with the All Star weekend right now is just that they run way too many laps for kind of the feel of what the All Star race is supposed to be. Even though the laps
Yeah.
are quick, to look up at the leaderboard and be like, oh, we still have another 100 laps to go.
Yep.
So
Yeah, if I'm NASCAR, if I was in charge of NASCAR, I'd bring back the 10 Days of Thunder, like it used to be, 10 years ago. Um, Freaking pit crew challenge, All Star race at Charlotte, practice qualifying all week for the Coke 600 and stuff. Charlotte is the home of NASCAR, so why not celebrate it all week like they used to?
yep. And I feel like
Um,
that would be a good way to get an extra Charlotte
Yeah.
Oval date, appease the people who want an extra Charlotte Oval date without losing the Roval.
yep.
So
JP, what were your thoughts on the 600?
I thought it was pretty good. um, Dad and I fell asleep doing it. Woke up to see the one car Ross Cascade uh, take the win, which he's been working hard all year long. So I was glad to see that.
Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, I mean, Trackhouse hasn't had a whole lot of speed this year. Um, can we give a shout out to Shane Van Gisbergen for finishing 14th yesterday, the second best Trackhouse car?
yeah, I think he finally learned what a left-hand turn was.
Yeah, he definitely showed up and showed out yesterday.
Well, and I mean that's the because yeah, he definitely had a great performance by his standards. It's still pretty far off from where you want him to be if you're looking at him as if he was going to do anything in the playoffs. If he does, let's just say, for example, he wins the Mexico race in a later on next month. For him to do anything in the playoffs, he needs to do more than what he did this weekend. But at least it's nice to see some progress.
Most definitely.
Because that's kind
Um,
of been my fear with him. Because it's like, okay, he could easily win one of the road courses and walk into the playoffs, and he'll be a completely wasted spot for being there.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um, this was also the first race for Amazon Prime Video. And I had, a few errands to run. I listened to most of the race on the radio, but I did catch the pre race and part of stage two while I was at my dad's house yesterday. But I want to get your guys' impressions and reactions on the broadcast as a whole because me personally, I absolutely loved it. Like they took it very seriously and made it to like crown jewel prestige again, like other than what Fox has done over the last several years. Like, what are your guys' thoughts on it, Ryan?
So, yeah, Amazon Prime absolutely killed it with the broadcast this week. As a on multiple different fronts. I mean, the fact that they had what like an hour or plus of pre-race, and then I think I saw an hour and a half post-race as well. That they were still going like an hour and a half later for post-race coverage too, which was just insane that we get that much post-race. Normally, yeah, especially with Fox, it's been the situation where it's like they can't get NASCAR off the air soon enough. Usually, I mean, half the time after like Talladega, we don't even get to hear from the runner-up or third place finisher until the next morning when independent reporters post their clips of their interviews.
Yeah,
So it was definitely a nice change of pace. And then my biggest compliment to Amazon Prime has got to go for the thing that they put up with 75 laps to go. They put up no more commercials through the end of the race. The final 75 laps completely uninterrupted.
absolutely love
And
it.
and the first commercial break didn't come till lap 30. Fox would have found a way to fit 4 commercial breaks in that time frame. Is it too early to cancel Fox's portion of the NASCAR season next year and give it to Prime?
I would love to just have Prime do the whole freaking season. To be honest.
I'll wait. I want to see what TNT and HBO Max have for the in-season tournament thing. I'm still kind of curious to see what that's going to look like before I'm giving it all to Prime. But Prime definitely set the bar up at went and stopped by Elon Musk up in space with the bar.
Yeah, big
Um,
time.
and
And
just one more. Oops,
they
sorry. Go
did.
ahead.
Oh, you're good. They did stick true to what they said. All commercial breaks during green flag laps were side by side.
Yep.
The only time they went full screen commercial was either during pre-race or when they were under caution.
Yep. And then the other thing that I will go ahead and just mention because I'm sure we'll hear plenty of it in the comment section on the on this thing is that yes, it is a paid streaming service that you're going to have to go to on top of any sort of cable provider, which 90% of people it feels like have already started cutting the cord. So I don't feel like it's a major loss. And also, Amazon Prime, unlike most streaming platforms, offers a 30-day free trial. So if you really wanted, you sign up for a 30-day free trial, that carries you through the entire NASCAR season. And
Yep.
that'll carry you through all 5 NASCAR races, including the 600. You can watch the entire thing, never have to actually pay a dime.
Yep. And that's what a
Although
lot of
I
people
think
don't understand.
I think it was well worth. I think it's well worth it for the quality that we got.
Yep. And I personally I love seeing Carl Edwards back.
Yeah,
He
you won't find many bigger Carl Edwards fans than me.
it was awesome. Like 100% chef's kiss. Like Ryan said, they set the bar super high, and I am so excited for the remaining 4 races. And I really, I agree with you, Ryan. I'm curious to see what TNT does and all that, but I just wish they had more races.
Oh yeah, me too. I mean, especially after seeing what they put on, I wish that Fox had maybe taken a 5 race stretch and and Prime got the 14 or whatever it was that Fox got. Just swap those two.
Can you imagine Dale
The
Jr.
Daytona 500.
Yes, Dale Jr., Adam Alexander, and whoever else was in the booth, Steve Letarte calling the Daytona 500. That would
Yeah, I
be
mean, obviously we've had
amazing.
that Dale Jr. Letarte combo at NBC for a while, but I feel like the underrated part of this booth is honestly Adam Alexander, because I feel like people don't give him enough credit for how great he did in the NASCAR Xfinity Series for Fox the last
Uh,
several years.
yeah, I mean he does it for the CW now, and like he's so good. Like
Yeah, I mean he's
he's one of the
definitely
most
different.
underrated. He's one of the most underrated commentators in motorsports.
Yeah, especially in kind of that host role compared to, because I feel like when you're talking about broadcasting, you almost have to take into account which ones are in that kind of host role versus the guys who are there because they know these cars, like Dale Jr., Jeff Gordon, Kevin Harvick to an extent, where it's like those people are there, they specifically have all that knowledge. But these
Yeah,
guys, they've made it there without, by just studying the sport and being students of the game, more so almost than the guys who have lived it.
Yep. JP, what were your thoughts on the Prime broadcast?
so fantastic. Um, I'm like you guys. I'm looking forward to the four remaining races for Prime, but um, but honestly, um, I'm ready for TNT, NBC to take over and see what they have. Then, then talk to me in 3 months, and we'll see who did the best. Right now, uh, Larry McMillan came on my show from Fox, but I tell you what, um, Fox definitely needs to do some work over the off season to get their program back to where it was in 2001, and so uh,
So ba-
yeah,
so basically, what you're saying is, out of the two broadcasters we've seen this year, Prime is the best.
yes,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like there isn't going to be a major change from NBC, although I feel like after what we've seen from this, they almost need to step it up.
Yep. Now, yeah, don't get me wrong. Lee Diffie is fantastic for NBC. But correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't Dale Jr. also doing the TNT as well?
I don't remember if he's doing the TNT or not. I honestly didn't remember that he was on the Prime one. I thought maybe he was on the TNT and not the Prime, but then I thought, okay, maybe I was wrong and he's on Prime and not TNT. But he's
um,
on both. But I would find that a little weird that one broadcaster would be doing multiple different TV channels broadcast.
I know
Okay,
where. Hold on,
so for
um,
TNT, it is going to be the same booth as Amazon Prime. It will be Adam Alexander, Dale Jr., and Steve Letarte.
All right, sounds good. But yeah, I'm curious to see then if there is a noticeable difference between the TNT portion and the Amazon Prime, because I think if I'm not mistaken, I think NASCAR Productions is actually the one producing the broadcast. So if it's the same production team, it should be very similar, if not the same quality.
Yeah.
back back when Larry Mack was on my my program here about a week or so ago, he could say he'll be a part of that TNT team.
Okay, cool. Sweet. Always love Larry Mack. Um, but my big question to you guys coming out of this entire weekend, obviously last year in 2024, the Indy 500 was delayed by 2.5, 3 hours. Kyle Larson was able to run the entire race, but was late showing up to Charlotte. Showed up during the red flag for the rain. Didn't even get in the car because NASCAR ended up calling the race early, which we are still salty about. That was not a NASCAR decision. That was a Fox decision, but that's an episode for another day.
Well, it was also like already 11 p.m. when they called it. I mean, it wasn't like it wasn't already very late
I
to
mean, that
try
is
and fix
true.
it.
That is true, but in 2015 for the summer race at Daytona, they didn't start that race till 11 p.m.
Well, yeah, they didn't start the race till 11 p.m., but they had already, in this case, they had already made it far enough to officially call it, and
Yeah,
they
but
and they had that one. But yeah,
but the track was almost dry too.
well,
Anyways,
you know,
and then this year, we saw, excuse me, we saw the 500, the start get delayed again by a few minutes. Larson crashed, was never going to finish. Goes to Charlotte, ends up crashing. Now, his deal with Arrow McLaren was only for 2 years. Does him and Rick Hendrick sign another contract to try the double one more time in 2026 and maybe be third time the charm? Ryan.
I don't think it happens in 2026 because I think with NASCAR's new rules on having to prioritize the 600. And I mean, honestly, I think you would have seen it on Larson's face if they had to pull him out of that car midway through the race, if especially if he was like in the top 5 and they pulled him down pit road to yank him out of that car. You would have seen even more sadness on his face than after he crashed. And I think that would have gone to show that the joy of trying the 500 would be all but gone from him. So I think if we do see another 500 attempt, I think it will be from a different driver.
All right. Well, before we get to JP, who do you think that might be?
I mean, reportedly, Kyle Busch actually had a deal completely done for him to be the driver in that McLaren for the last 2 years. Yeah, the only thing they were working on is exactly which parts in-house McLaren sponsors would be covering versus which ones would be covered by some of Bush's NASCAR sponsors. And Hendrick Cars came in and was willing to just, we'll pay for whatever you need us to. Let's get Larson in this car, and ultimately kicked Kyle out to put Kyle in.
All right.
So,
JP, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say, so between that and the fact that Kyle has had multiple deals that close, because, I mean, back in 2017, he mentioned how he had a deal done with Penske where Toyota had signed off on it for him to drive a Chevrolet engine for Team Penske. M&M's was going to fund it, and that one fell through because because Joe Gibbs wasn't willing to risk his star driver going down with an injury at that point. So, I mean, Kyle has shown the most ambition to try and get a deal done. So, I think if you see someone try and do it, I think Kyle would do it.
Whoa,
And I
whoa,
could
whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold about.
And I think RCR would potentially be a team willing to let him do it as a way to try and keep him around.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold about.
All right. You got JP.
Because the driver I see doing it is a Penske driver. And I see your I see Joey Logano doing it.
Why Joey Logano? What's your reasoning there? Because he's, as far as I know, I don't think he's shown any real interest in the IndyCar series, or has never expressed any interest in running the 500.
Well, I have a theory. Roger Penske owns the series, and Joey Logano is
He's owned the
one of
series for 5 years. You think he would have put a Penske NASCAR driver in there for a double attempt at some point between now and then if that was the reasoning?
yeah, but I I will see Logano doing it, and the year I see him doing it, it's 2027.
Okay. Again, outside of the fact that Penske owns the Indy 500, anything to back up your theory? Anything at all?
Well, he might want to have 500 and the Indy 500 on his record, possibly to win. While Larson doesn't have a Daytona 500 to his credit yet. So,
Yeah, I mean, again, I just see if I think, especially the fact that you lose all playoff point bonuses if you do prioritize Indy over Charlotte, you'd have to look for a driver who is kind of past his real championship window for NASCAR, and a driver who really doesn't care about the media, about what the media might say about him if he does prioritize Indy over Charlotte. And if you're looking for a driver who doesn't care what the media thinks of him, I think Kyle Busch is about the golden boy for that. If you want someone who
yeah.
doesn't care about the media, and that's coming
Yeah.
from a Kyle Busch fan. I mean, one of my favorite things about him is that hey, he'll tell you what he thinks, regardless of whether you like it or not. You'll never have to
Oh,
question which side of the fence he's on.
oh, what do you guys think about someone who actually has like open wheel experience, like an AJ Allmendinger?
I would like to see it. I just would be curious because the whole reason why he ended up leaving Team Penske over the whole Adderall thing. I'm curious if any of that could potentially hold up some of those conversations. Because I know that was a while ago, but it's still one of those things that could
Good
linger,
hold it. Yeah.
could hold
Good.
back negotiations. Not to mention, Allmendinger, is definitely nowhere near as big a name for sponsors to latch on to. I mean, almost every sponsorship he has is an in-house colleague sponsor that's been a colleague longer than AJ.
Yeah, that's true. That's
It's
true.
like that's the thing with both Bush and even to JP's credit, Logano. They could both bring in, sponsorship. I mean, obviously Logano would have the same sponsor, Shell, but it's a sponsor that's been with him for a decade at this point. And same thing with Kyle Busch. He's been proven to be able to bring in sponsors like Lucas Oil, sponsors like the Rebel Bourbon brand. He's been able to bring these kinds of sponsors in regardless of the fact that they weren't part of the team before he got there.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are going to now transition into our green flags and black flags segment. For our new listeners, green flags is something about the race weekend that we did like. Black flags is something that we did not like, and obviously this covers everything that happened this past weekend. And we are going to kick it off with Ryan.
All right. So I'll start off with my green flag, and I'm sure it's going to be it's something we've already gushed over, so I'll keep it somewhat brief. Absolute win for Amazon Prime. Limited commercial interruption.
Okay, lift your booty up. Have you been farting?
There's a limited commercial interruption. Yeah, both at the start of the race and then the final 75 laps uninterrupted by any sort of commercial. I mean, that is unheard of. I mean, even in TV standards, name me one place you can go on TV where you can go. What would that be? About 40 minutes without a commercial break? Name one thing on in any form of television where you can go 40 minutes without seeing a commercial.
Yeah,
Let alone
definitely.
it being the most important 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So so that's a big win, and then I'll give one other quick shout out to either NASCAR or Prime or whoever it was for shutting down a bunch of the illegal streaming links that people were using to illegally watch the race. Absolutely boosted viewership in the closing laps for channels like mine doing live commentary, live personally created commentary of the race rather than just re-uploading stealing the actual race footage. So massive credit to them for actually taking initiative to shut down illegal streams.
What's your black flag, sir?
My black flag for the weekend, I'll give it to the IndyCar inspection team for not catching stuff until after it's already basically too late. Because they caught the Penskes after they already bumped out Jacob Abel, who's a friend of the channel, and then and then they didn't catch the Ericsson and all the other Indy penalties until this morning. So it just seems like their inspection team is inspecting too little, too late at this point. And I think they're lucky that Ericsson didn't manage to make that pass for the win. Because then
Yeah,
they'd
that
have
would
a
have
real
been a
black mark on the record.
that would have been a huge mess.
Yep.
Oh,
But yeah, that's my black flag is the IndyCar inspection team.
all right, JP, what about you?
So my green flag has to go to Kyle Edwards of Amazon Prime. I feel like Kyle Edwards being on that Amazon Prime video broadcast team is by far one of the best people they could have gotten. So congratulations to Amazon Prime for a good weekend. Now for my black flag. My black flag goes to Kyle Larson. And the reason is you go Gangy, work so hard, and then you wreck. And then you go to NASCAR and you wreck again.
Not a good weekend for Larson. Not at all.
Nope.
My green flag goes to Ross Chastain. Wrecked in qualifying, started dead last, shotgun on the field, and over the course of the race, had the fastest car on a long run, and just straight up drove to the front and won the race. He didn't do it via tire strategy, via pit strategy, nothing of that sort. He just straight up drove to the front and ended up winning the Coca-Cola 600 for his first crown jewel win. I got to give huge props to the Melon Man. Um, my black flag goes to Indycar for how they um, handled the rain delay. Like Ryan said earlier, it could have been, wishy washy, kind of dangerous with the cars out on the track during pace laps and stuff. But I personally think that it would have helped a lot drying the track faster had they had the cars out there running at a reasonable pace speed, just keeping some heat in the track.
Yeah, I just worry that if you go and burn 15, 20 laps off of that, I mean, you're burning a decent amount of the race off at that point.
No, I agree with that too. It's kind of a lose-lose situation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's where the red flag, the black flag should go to Mother Nature.
Yeah,
for showing up in the first place.
Yeah. But we are going to transition now into our preview segment. They are racing at Nashville Super Speedway this weekend. Other little concrete track up there near Nashville, Tennessee. Oh my Lord, help me out here. Who won last year?
That was the
Yep.
Logano 5 overtimes race.
Yep. Will we see that the second year in a row? Who knows? But we are going to go into our picks. I have all three names on the podcast in the wheel.
I sincerely hope we don't have to see another 5 overtime race ever again.
And the first pick goes to me. So
rigged.
Yeah, rigged.
I think we did get IndyCar inspection team on that one.
I kind of want to go with a Penske car, but at the same time, they were pretty much non-existent during the Coke 600. I mean, that could change this weekend, but I don't think I've picked him all season. I am going to go with yesterday's winner, Ross Chastain.
All right. Yeah, say the 2023 winner of this race.
Yes, sir. Next pick goes to Ryan.
Nice. Let's go. Well, I think if you have watched any amount of NASCAR throughout this season specifically, Kyle Larson doesn't usually follow up a bad weekend with another bad weekend. So I will absolutely take Kyle Larson to absolutely curb stomp the field and work out some of that anger from the failures at Indy and the failure at Charlotte. Because, he is not one to have 2 bad weekends in a row.
All right. And the last pick goes to Mr. JP.
So, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time this season, to my knowledge, I'm taking my favorite driver, Chase Elliott.
All right.
All right.
So all Chevy bow ties for picks so far.
Yeah, I'll get the rest of the picks later this week.
Yep. And like Ryan said, we will get the rest of the picks this week. Before we close it out, we are going to do another rousing round of some trivia. Jamie is not here tonight, so I will be covering for him. And as always, if you get the question correct or the answer correct, you get a bonus point towards your race pick total. If you get it wrong, I get the bonus point.
All right.
Now we are running. They are running at Nashville Super Speedway as stated earlier. Within 10 miles per hour, what is the fastest lap run in a Cup Series car at Nashville? And I will give you a bonus point if you can name the driver. Starting with Ryan.
Can I ask one quick clarifying question?
Yes, sir.
Is this from the next gen era after we came back to Nashville, or does it include the cars beforehand? Because I feel like the cars before were actually potentially faster than these next gen cars.
The next gen era.
Okay, of the next gen era. Okay, let's go with a mile per hourage of, let's say, 185
Okay.
miles per hour average.
And who do you think ran that?
Stuart Haas cars were fast. Let's go ahead and go with, I'm gonna say, Josh Berry in the Stuart Haas car.
Okay. What about you, JP?
So I'm going to go 187 miles an hour by Hendrick Motorsports Kyle Larson.
Both of you would be incorrect.
All right.
The fastest lap run by a Cup Series next gen car was 162.25 miles per hour.
Oh wow, we both way overshot.
Yep, and that was set by Tyler Reddick in a practice session in 2023.
All right.
Yeah.
I will say, I feel like the trivia segments are a lot easier to win when there's only two people that could potentially get it right.
Yep. So I will get the bonus point this week. Um, Before we close the show out, obviously a huge shout out to all of our sponsors: Century PC, Sleeves, Fanatics, Fubo TV, Smackin' Sunflower Seeds, Dr. Squatch, Bulletproof Coffee. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring this podcast and all of our other podcasts, which I will get to in just a second. We're on to bigger and better things for the rest of 2025 and beyond. Um, don't forget to check out JP's channel on YouTube, Full Throttle. Don't forget to check out Ryan on YouTube as well at Ryan Dyer. And be on the lookout. Me and Ryan will be doing a double live reaction to the Cup Series race at Atlanta coming up on June 28th. Should be a good time there. And again, also a special shout out to Will and the Alkali Project. And also be sure to check out our other podcasts, The Hard Count coming up later on this summer, Dirt and Turf, which is going on right now for baseball, and Biscuits and Penalties for hockey, and The Social Slam, which is a new podcast that we started earlier this year that covers all things wrestling. We have a plethora of podcasts for you guys to listen to. Please be sure to check them out and give us a like and a follow if you are able to. But until next time, I'm Greg, and for JP and Ryan, this has been The Lap Down, and we will see you guys right after Nashville.